Now, I skipped over a section. Now, it's very easy to read something and just grab little sound bites and not realize that there's a reason certain things are in between certain other things. He could have gone from verse 19 directly to verse 23, but in the middle of that, there's this thing about this woman with a flow of blood. In verse 20, it says, "And see, a woman had a flow of blood for 12 years and came behind and touched the tzitzit of his garment. For she said to herself, if only I touch his garment, I shall be healed. Yeshua turned, and when he saw her, he said, take courage, daughter, your belief has healed you. And the woman was healed that hour." Okay, so it's very interesting that in the middle of all this, between the homage, the worship that this ruler came to Yeshua with, and him actually showing up and restoring the woman, the child, there's this connection with the tzitzit and this woman with the issue of blood. Could it be that this is because there's trying to be a linkage now to worship and Numbers 15 and the tzitzit? So in Numbers 15 and verse 37, you can hold your place here in Matthew. Okay, we're just going to go to Numbers just for a second because we're going to find the tzitzit are linked in more than one place here to worshiping Yeshua. And so here it says in Numbers 15, and we'll begin in verse 37. It says, and Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Israel, and they shall make for themselves tzitzit on the corners of their garments throughout their generations, and put a cord of blue in the tzitzit of the corners. And it shall be to you for a tzitzit, and you shall see it, and shall remember all the commands of Yahweh, and shall do them, and not search after your own heart and your own eyes, after which you went whoring, and so that you remember and shall do all my commands, and be set apart unto Yahweh your Elohim. I am Yahweh your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim. To be your Elohim, I am Yahweh your Elohim. So could it be, maybe I'm stretching it here, but could it be that connected to worship is understanding not to go after whoring after our own hearts and our own eyes and our own desires, but it's that submission that worship means, where you're going to be submitting to what Yahweh said, which is Torah commandments. So could it be that's why this little tzitzit thing is jammed here in the middle, because the linkage would be to Numbers chapter 15. And so it's the idea of not only submitting to him, but submitting to what he represents. What does Yeshua represent? He's the walking, talking Torah. He's the Word made flesh. He's the truth. So there is a linkage or a submission here to Torah that's being hinted at. And again, you got to remember, as we read Scripture, there's a lot of stuff that's straight, what we call pashat, or simple in its understanding. There's a lot of stuff that's remez. Remez means hinted at. And that's why we have and I know people like to say these things all the time in their churches. Oh, we study, boy, do we study in our church. And I want to tell you, without insulting any of you, compared to what I've seen the Jewish community do, you're amateurs. You have no idea. You just have no idea. And it shouldn't be insulting, because they've been doing it a lot longer than you have. But one of the things they would do, which you probably wouldn't do, is they would stop and they would want to spend a lot of time needing to understand why this tzitzit thing happened between the ruler coming to him and him showing up where the child was. Most people would not even pay any attention to that. But if you were a Jew studying, this would bother you to need to know. You would have to know, why is that there? Because there's not a wasted word. Do you understand there's not a wasted word in your Scripture? And there's not a word that's out of order. It's there for a reason in the order it is. And since I'm sure there was a bunch of things that happened between Yeshua talking to this ruler and him showing up where the child was, and none of that got written except this one thing with the tzitzit. And so we have to ask the question, why is it there?